Out Front with Vince Noble, the weekly podcast that gives emerging leaders and career transitioning individuals the information and inspiration to thrive and become their best. Available wherever you download or listen to your podcasts.
There is a new weapon in the fight against COVID-19. The Valoro Company provides NASA-based active pure technology air purifiers that rapidly eliminate 99.9% of airborne SARS-CoV-2 viruses from your immediate environment. This amazing advanced technology filtering system was first developed for use by the NASA Space Shuttle program, and now to help meet the curable demand of the global pandemic crises. This amazing technology is made available at affordable pricing to the general public for your home or place of business use. For more information, contact US Asia OT and Majestics LLC at 689-222-8900 or 312-200-0109. Or email subject information@usasiaonlinetrade@gmail.com.
Welcome to this episode of the Out Front Podcast with host Vince Noble, the podcast that gives emerging leaders and career transitioning individuals the information and inspiration to thrive and become their best. For sponsorship and advertisement opportunities, please contact info@nobleresolutions.com. And now, your host, Vince Noble.
I want to acknowledge each and every one of you who is stepping into your authentic power today.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Out Front Podcast, the show that gives emerging leaders and career transitioning individuals the information and inspiration to thrive and become their best. I am your host, Vince Noble. I am super excited today, as always, that you would be spending some of your time with me on today. And the truth is, I never take that for granted. You know, there are so many of you this past year that have supported me, supported this podcast, and making it a top 5% globally ranked, recognized podcast. And I am so grateful for you. I'm grateful for all of you. You know, this past 6 months or so, you know, I guess you could say I've been extremely sensitive in that to what I give much of my attention to, you know, but more importantly, how much more agile and adaptive, you know, I recognize I still must become. I think it has to become a top priority in terms of how we individually manage distractions for the most part, and ultimately our mental health where it is concerned. You know, even from, you know, a leader perspective, we have to do better at managing our mental health. I think during this mental marathon, we understand we are not all impacted in the same way. However, if not managed in a certain way, distractions can become the number one killer of individual achievement and advancement. So it's literally in this season of my life of being extra sensitive, if you will, to minding my own business and navigating the current environment. And again, most of us know in truth that can be quite challenging. But I know many of you have been sort of, you know, thinking and or operating along those same lines as well. There are so many distractions in our world at present, and it requires us all to sort of demonstrate some deep and intense concentration on what it is that is most important to us in terms of what will it take us to get closer to achieving our overall goals and objectives. You know, it's being what I believe is being hyper-focused without losing sight of what's going on around you at the same time. You know, you have to have a good situational awareness, I believe, to recalculate, if you will, or recalibrate, if you will, when life throws you curveballs. I think it's extremely helpful to be aware of what you are feeling and why. You see, I frequently talk about the importance of awareness. That's simply knowing what you are thinking as well as what you are physically and emotionally feeling. I believe we often make too many moves before we think to do all the mindset stuff first. Mindset is everything. And we haven't gotten to the point yet of realizing the fact that we all are rapidly approaching a mental health crisis as a result of this pandemic. I've been saying start by honoring your true experience, but not letting it dominate you to the point. And again, it's important to take notice of what you are thinking and how you are feeling. You'll find that the parts of your thinking that are based on made up stories and assumptions or predictions. You see, most individuals are in the midst of making what I believe some sort of a pivot right now. While the pandemic is not behind us, we can see for the most part around the country that we are indeed perhaps rounding the curve. But as you focus on what's next, don't assume that everyone knows and agrees on where you are and or even where you want to go. You have not drawn the same lessons from the past year as everyone else. Never assume that your clarity of vision about next steps is shared by others. This is a hard lesson that I learned myself. Never assume that you are all on the same page unless you have taken the time to get on the same page. There is a great deal of conversation these days about how individuals were forced to pivot. But I believe before you get to carefully pivot, you're still required to do all of the mindset stuff first. I tell you, I'm unstoppable when I clearly know what I want and, more importantly, why I want it. You see, this allows me to redirect and mass all of my energies in the right direction. You see, I'm able to what I refer to as to GPS my life, to reestablish goals, priorities, and strategies. There are a lot of people who will tell you they know what it is they want. But the problem is they can't tell you why. You see, you have to know why you want it. But even more than that, if your why don't make you feel a certain way, if your why don't keep you up at night, if your why don't make you cry, then I tell you, your why is more likely not to be strong enough. You'll eventually give up. You'll eventually close up shop. You'll eventually throw in the towel and walk away. Why is it that you desire X, Y, or Z? You see, most people, they don't really know why. They just know they want it. Everything in life has a trade-off. So when it gets tough, I mean really get tough, are you going to be able to buckle down? Are you going to have enough in you? Are you going to have enough in you to shift it to overdrive when you need to? I would argue, not if you don't do the mindset stuff first. You have to do the mindset stuff first. Be very careful how you listen to and read into different sources of information. But to really understand pivots in personal life, we first have to define and understand what pivots in business are, or to be even more exact, what they are in the startup world. You see, the pandemic, for example, it's devastating for many businesses and families alike. At the same time, it's forcing others to take risks and change their planned path as well. So in terms of lean startup methodology, pivot is defined as a fundamental change in business strategy. The very idea of a pivot is changing the direction while staying grounded in your vision. It's very important to understand that a pivot doesn't only mean a change or a shift to a new business idea, but a strategic change in strategy while deeply considering all the facts that you learned during the way, especially those about markets and keeping your business vision as a compass. You see, one of the things I've grown to realize is sooner or later, you have to make pivots in different areas of your personal life. Sooner or later, you will have the real-world opportunity to demonstrate just how resilient you are. You'll get the real-world opportunity to demonstrate just how agile and adaptive you are. And due to COVID, everyone's talking about how they had to pivot in some way, as if success alone is in the pivot. The word or idea of pivot has become, sort of a fashionable term these days. Making a pivot in your personal life is basically no different from making a pivot in business. In personal life, you often don't have a choice. And oftentimes, those choices are forced upon you to make a pivot. Your partner breaks up with you. You get laid off from employment. The business closed down. A pandemic. The success alone is not in the pivot itself. So, be real and open and transparent when you fall short. So what I always say, just be real. Be real, open, and transparent when you fall short. And more importantly, how you feel. It's often in the learning process in which is extended to the value conversation with others on how you came up short. You see, in the military, we called it an AAR, an after action review. Did we achieve what we wanted to achieve? No? Then how do we get there? What do we do next? You see, what do we do next time that we didn't do this time? What should we do, or what should we have learned through the process? I would highly encourage you to adopt an after-action review policy after every significant event in your personal and professional affairs. You see, routinely huddle with your teammates and have that professional discussion of an event focused on performance standards only. Who was supposed to do what? This will enable everyone to discover for themselves what happened, why it happened, and how do we sustain strengths and or improve on weaknesses. This mindset of how you mind your business carries over to all areas of life. But what is really interesting to me is no one is talking how they felt a need to pivot and failed, or how they were forced into another set of actions or activities, but they were not prepared to. You see, that's the problem with society and social media. Everyone wants to only depict success. Success, success, success. Too many of us have a move-on mindset. Collateral damage everywhere as a result. And quickly and quietly move on. Because we don't want everyone to know our real needs sometimes. We don't want everyone to know how we fail. We don't want to appear weak. You see, you can pivot and get hurt. That's right. You can pivot and get hurt if you are not super clear on what it is you're really trying to achieve and why. You see, it's in the timing as well. You start navigating alone in the deep, and you may need some help. You see, those expectations of yours must realistically be aligned. They must be aligned with sometimes your own capabilities. You see, again, the term pivot has become so commonly used in many different areas of life, but nowhere is a pivot more critical than in your personal and professional life. The fact is, not everyone is going to have a CEO type of responsibility and duties of a business, but you're certainly the CEO of your household. A pivot in the wrong direction can lead to massive failures. So what? You receive the pink slip. How could that company lay me off after all I've done? Now what? I'll keep saying it again and again. At some point in life, we all have to face that proverbial music, if you will, of an honest capability gap in our lives. See, the truth is, we don't possess the capacity alone to take us where we are to where we desire all the time. What's the stuff in the middle that you should focus on and plan accordingly before you decide to put yourself out there in an attempt to pivot with a weak strategy? Failing to plan is usually a plan to pivot into failure. No, you don't need a 500-page document to guide you, but you do need something more than a Post-it note on your desktop or your refrigerator. You should be clear on who will all be impacted by the pivot and what they should expect because of it. You should include this in all areas. Once you know these two things, you can begin to put together some metrics for how you'll know you're making progress toward the goals. Build a test that includes early warning signs. If something goes wrong in the test, you'll see it early and know what to do. This is one of the most important elements of a pivot. Build a test that includes early warning signs. If something's going wrong in the test, you'll see it early enough and know what to do. Again, this is one of the most important elements of a pivot. Don't confuse growth and diversification with pivoting. You see, when you identify a new opportunity, embrace it. But don't sacrifice everything and call it a pivot. Be sure you're willing to dedicate the resources, and that's time, blood, money, and sweat to stand up a new thing. The bottom line is the pivot starts with the mindset stuff. It's a matter of getting focused on what's in front of you. Get hyper-focused on the desired outcomes with a timeline associated. It requires an honest inventory of your skills. It requires you to know financially what you are able to put together, and that's knowing your options. And your options may be gold, silver, or platinum. That may be it. Gold, silver, platinum standard, and be okay with it. One important thing I learned in the military is sometimes you have to go back to the basics and don't let pride get in the way. You can change your direction in life, but you can still keep the same vision, mission, and values. Sometimes, you change the strategy, but the dream never change. You see, there are very few people in this world who are lucky enough to find their perfect fit right away. And see, the point I'm trying to make is that all of us have to make a pivot in our lives sooner or later. Your mindset, beliefs, and values, your spouse, how often you see your family members, relationships with your children, if you have them, your social circle and friends, the type of sports you do regularly and your diet, your career and industry, revenue, resources, and investment strategies, formal and informal education and skills development, country and home and other environments you operate in, the technology you use in religion, etc. Again, the point I'm trying to make is that all of us have to make a pivot in our personal lives sooner or later. The important thing is that you try to make a pivot as scientifically as possible, with the purpose of getting to your perfect fit as fast as possible. You see, that means that no matter how hard a pivot is, you consider what you've learned about yourself and your environment before making a pivot and starting to look for a new fit. You should carefully, hear me out, you should carefully analyze all the learned facts. You must be very well aware of how you know yourself better now and what you want, and you must have superior insight into your environment and what your wrong assumptions were then and maybe even now. Every pivot should be a conscious and proactive change in your life strategy. You see, beloved, the proper pivot is a matter of getting focused and minding your business. Until next time.
We certainly hope that you enjoyed today's episode. So make sure to join our Facebook group, Out Front with Vince Noble. And don't forget to comment, rate, share, and subscribe on the Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to download your podcast. Until next time, remember, you still get to write your own life story.